Well, that's also true. Secretary is one of them. Which sort of thing we're still in reports anyway, so it's not, it's all recorded. Get what she needs. Actually, oh yeah, is it recorded again? Are we back on?
Political action is also the name of my Sunday.
Frank, you're up next. Do you have slides and stuff or?
It's just a report.
Just the report, you can do it? Alright, one more minute, just so that they don't miss too much, but we're gonna go ahead and start. Olive Garden.
Step one.
Well, if you count, slice it. They got kind of 27. Thursday. Now we can. All right, so as I mentioned, we do have forums, but we are missing a good chunk of our body here, and the secretary happens to be one of them. But the show must go on. So we are still in reports, and it's the political action department report next. So Frank Fasano. Woo!
Thank you.
It's a good afternoon, everyone that didn't go to Olive Garden. And some of you that did. But, okay, so political action, obviously 2023 legislative session is now full week. That's our main priority right now for the next couple of months, at least until the end of May. As I mentioned earlier, we're all endangered, so we have to make sure we arm ourselves with knowledge and prepare ourselves to get down there. Right, or get down there right now. Out there. So the main thing, of course, I think the main thing I just spoke with Kevin's on the ground with us. I think our legislative coordinator, Renee, hopefully co-love you. The main thing we need is readers for our bill tracker. So we have the bill tracker. It's up. For those of you who haven't seen it, it's a Google slide sheet. We're trying to get it backed up to like an Excel download at least once a week. But it's live. Anyone can edit it or share it. If you don't have any permissions, just I guess ask for it on the Google slide. Just send me an email and give you access. It's pretty simple. I think we need. I think Kevin, you mentioned there are 700 more bills approximately.
The House added another lot of bills.
It's about 7 people reading right now. I have 11 on response.
So it's 700 or 800, and it takes about, I would say on average, probably like 10 minutes per bill to read it, digest it, and kind of help with the summary, I would say. So maybe like 6 bills an hour. We have like 100 person hours to complete at least have every bill like kind of what's read over. So we got 10 people. That's 10 hours per person. Hopefully, the goal is we can get them all done before for this legislative session. So they're election code, property tax, drug policy reform, school choice, and healthcare. Those are just kind of different, hot button issues that can also, that legislators much more than that. But those are kind of the main focus areas. And of course, the bill readers, those bills cover literally everything that the legislator is contemplating. So they cover far more than those 5 areas. Those are just kind of focus areas for categorization purposes. But we're looking at all the bills regardless of what they cover. Some of them are very specific. I think I read one where it was literally allowing the extra county hospital board to do kind of police escorts for like funerals and stuff like that. So some of them are very specific, and some of them are very broad. So that should be a summary. And we can kind of cross over with our L2 data for that. So we research data for something that's like property tax, for instance, that might be more Republican issue, right? We can synergize with them on those issues, and then with Democrats on other issues, perhaps more drug decriminalization or something to that nature, right? And then I just kind of put on in the report for those of you who I guess take a look at it. There's the different areas that kind of listed, about 3 or 4 different hospitals just for kind of the thought right now. Going forward, we're gonna have. I'm hoping to give to comms like a top 10 list of different bills, like 10 most inflammatory bills, 10 most bills that we really want to pass, like the super green bills, or ones that we really don't want to get passed. So the super red bills, right? So something, and I use green and red. I'm going to get into that. Just the top right thing, not political colors. So moving down. And you can also see, if you look at this table a little bit, you'll see some of the authors, they cross between Democrats and Republicans. It's kind of interesting to see that not only just to note the author of what House district or what Senate district they're from, in case you might write those themselves and want to reach out to your representative, but also just that, some of them who might be for, Goodwin's pretty good on RCD issues, but then if you scroll down, she's also championing a consumption tax or sales tax on firearms and ammunition. And I don't say that to get with blood pressure up, but just to kind of put a fire in your belly. I mean, if you read through some of these bills, you'll start to see things that are really, really good for libertarians, and things that are really, really bad, and something we don't like. So that's another good reason, another pitch to kind of start doing a little bit of bill reading for anyone that wants to. And also another thing on bill reading is even though we have a lot that are left to read, and hopefully we're gonna get those done by March 10th, it's not a bad idea, especially if you're maybe not comfortable doing an initial read, going through some of them that have already been read, read them again, come up with your own kind of synopsis for it, see what's been written on the notes. We have like I wish I had it. I don't have a slide with an example of the bill reader, but there's like at least a dozen extra columns on each row is its own. There's extra columns for notes and stuff, so you put your own notes, your own take on the bill. Some of them, especially the ones in yellow, and again, I'm going to get into the terminology, but street light colors, yellow kind of mean like either we're indifferent or we might not take a position, or the platform's just silent, sort of omitted category. Some of them can be highly controversial. We might want several different opinions because ideally for the synopsis on the bill reads, they should be ideally. What we want is something that tracks to our platform. We don't have a platform. I tried to put a platform citation on each of the different policies. We don't have a platform citation column in the bill reader itself because that would add extra time and complication to it. The bill tracker. So the bill tracker is separate. This is just a report. The bill tracker is a spreadsheet. It has all our information. It has the bill name, the author, the topic that it's covering, and like a short description. I think for most of the bills in the bill tracker already too, I think you can hyperlink you click on the short description. So it'll take you right to the page and you can easily just go and get the pull up the bill text and read it. But essentially, some of them, there might be, I think one of them I read through, I think I tracked this one was kind of on abortion rights, and that's kind of an issue for libertarians. It's a major cleavage issue for our party. So it's just it's people on both sides. So we might want second opinions on some of those issues. public, especially the hot fund issue. Yeah, so, that's one, that one just, is one that Governor Hubbard particularly, I think, his campaign SB 176, that would give parents the ability to have a private education fund for each student that they could use to pay for private school or whatever it is that's a school related, right? So that's a good issue for us, and there's obviously bills that have it, that we don't like. So you just want to, kind of civil lobbying day strategy. On the forum, I know Kevin has a bunch more, last dates, so legislative action dates. So these aren't the full exhaustive list, but you go to form there's about, I think it's almost yearly one, so that's good, we're in the right direction there. The color coding for the bill tracker. So if you do go to the bill tracker, it's super easy to kind of just visualize, looking through it, you'll see green bills, those are ones that, you know, are in line with our platform bills that we want, that we hope to lobby for. Big red bills are ones that we hope to lobby against, or against our platform, against our values. And then yellow bills, they could be something that's, like I said, omitted, it could be something that we're indifferent, and we don't, our platform doesn't speak on, or that might be, cut both ways, in other words, right? Or yeah. So yeah, so if there's a, you know, one that does away with all roads, right? Something like that, it might be green, or red, depending on how you look at it. And so then we have, on a quick note on coalition partners, and I think, Ray had mentioned, so RCD is not actually, we're not coalition partnering with them for political reasons, but we are co-lobbying with them. So we'll be lobbying in the same, kind of for their issues, but we're not officially, being with them on those issues because it might, give a bit of a take, to us, to their party if we want. So, like I said, the main, besides the LAD dates, the other big date to look at is March 10th. That's when the bills stop getting filed. We want to hopefully get all the bills read by then, so at least we have one to pass over. If you all, like I said, please look at the bills that we do have in the bill tracker, give them a second set of eyes, put some notes in there if you want to, if there's, especially the yellow ones, if there's something that you think is, I think almost everyone that's been bill reading has been doing a really good job, putting a good synopsis, not just the short kind of title of it and relevant to this or whatever, but an actual kind of what it does. Some of them are a little bit more intricate and might require some cross-reading with other statutes, but most of them are pretty straightforward, and I think most people can probably understand them. And other than that, I just have at the bottom just some helpful maps. If you all do go down to the Capitol, hopefully most of us do on Monday, those that can. And then other than that, I guess we can open up questions. Mr. Westbrook.
So I have just a couple of things here. With regards to the bill tracker, is it possible for you to put that out on the, or you may have already, but put it on the forum, maybe on Discord, so that we could link it, say, yeah, I want to do that.
Yeah, I can put a link up there for it.
Second thing is, additional legislation, does this particular tracker provide you with a synopsis, instead of us having to go to the platform and find out, you know, here's all our positions, whatever, we have to, that tracker provide us with a synopsis on, here's our standards on these things that we're actually looking at or anything like that?
I think maybe you're talking about the color coding, for instance, so you could.
No, I'm talking about, okay, so we have platforms,
Yeah.
This is what we believe.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, okay, I'm reading this, I looked through our platform, I got general idea in my head, this is who we are, even whether I agree with all of them or not, this is who we are, but it would seem like to me it would be easier if I'm doing that, if I had kind of just a brief synopsis. You know, this is our stance on these issues.
I think kind of like a cheat sheet of how to be a libertarian.
Yeah, or how to be a Texas, I don't mean
That's
Texas libertarian.
right. Yeah, I guess we all just stick with all the one true libertarians. I feel like the most conflict just flows from the heart, but.
When I first started doing this, everybody think that about me. And
That's a good question. I don't have it.
we don't have anything like that.
Yeah, we
But
don't really
can
have
make
it.
our own.
Yeah.
I know that I've taken account who does the reading for
Sure
me.
you
So, for instance, if Nathan Paulson reads a bill for me and Aaron Boss reads a bill for me, I understand that I'm gonna get two I'll take any help I can get, guys, so, you know, don't be dogging our readers.
Danielle and LB Texas not working the meantime, if we want to.
Yeah, refer to our platform, and usually what I tell people is if you would vote for the bill, paint it green. If you think you want to amend the bill, paint it yellow. If you hate the bill, paint it red. If it mind fucks you, paint it blue and we'll come back to that.
Yeah, I know the blue color, some people have been putting, certain bills on blue, so maybe, I don't know if it's if they don't understand it, or if it's something just super out of left field, you know, and some bills don't even have a position, so like I saw, you know, there's a lot of senators that they write bills that just like, oh, we're recognizing this school district for being really great or something, you know, something like that.
We'll try to keep this orderly here, so you know, we're raising your hand. Mr. President, you need to respond to it.
Yeah, just a little synopsis, cheat sheet, sort of thing. But, okay, I can read the platform, I thought there was one. I use it. I think I'm scared, you know.
I have y'all on the list, Mr. Mayor, because part of what I would say is the request that you have to it is eligible, and that you don't want anybody.
No, I'm talking about people who want to volunteer.
No,
Put it out there, say, if you want to volunteer, click here, here's
I got
volunteer.
it, okay, the tracker itself, that's not. I
And,
want to clarify that.
and the tracker's locked, so if you send the link to anyone, they're not gonna have access unless they request access and then I give them. Yes, we got it.
L2 data.
Yes, so the L2 data, we're rolling it out. I'm still talking with Jeremy and Jester kind of forefronting it. So as far as the rollout for training, but we're hoping to get that out soon.
What is, can you give us a, soon is a relative term?
Yeah.
You mean soon as in this summer, or you mean soon as in this year?
I mean, my goal, hopeful deadline is before those May elections, before the March 6th elections, that way, especially hopefully a couple weeks before, because that's when we really need people, you know, local people that are running those races on the ground, and they kind of need that data to see which doors they should knock on and which votes they should call.
Right, for, like, I want to recruit a couple of candidates. And knowing what kind of candidate to recruit for these local races, having access to that will help me try to recruit the right person.
Right.
Is there a order of rollout that you anticipate? Political action, then county chairs, then SLEC?
So, and actually, I'm glad you asked that question, because we're gonna actually, and I forgot to mention this in the report, the political action is gonna have a meeting after the select meeting, that I think we have the room till 5 officially. If we have to move it outside, that's fine, we have to get like content in the parking lot, whatever it takes, but we're gonna have a meeting, and so we'll hash out a little bit more on that, go more in depth.
Thank you. Mr. Marino?
I'll say part of my meeting after now, but is the bill tracker tracking where the bills are, whether they're in committee, on calendar, where they're at?
Well, not yet, because the calendars just came out.
And that's gonna be live, you have to check it.
Yeah, I know, that's obviously.
Always.
Or is there like an efficiency of effort thing? You know, how, which bills are going to be focusing on one,
Okay, let me address this. When we initiate contact with the legislators on our lab days, we want to talk about bills that we want, green bills, okay? When they initiate the contact via calendaring a bill that we don't like, that's when we're gonna have an appropriate response. The reason we color coded these is so that our response is color coded. You're gonna get notices, red bill notice. We need you, in fact, I got a red bill notice today for you. March 1st, Senate Bill 645 is coming up, and it increases the penalties for controlled substances. So that's a red bill flag. Here's a green bill flag for you. Tuesday at 10:30, House Bill 218 is up, and that decriminalizes the concentration, cannabis concentration from felony to misdemeanor. So we're way in favor of that bill. So there's two bills right there, the red bill alert, that's green bill alert. Yellow bill alerts will have amendments come with them, new email system, so you are Commerce Department. So that's how that's going to roll out. So they literally just flooded us with a bunch of stuff. So I'm trying to catch up so that we can start with red bill alerts. I was hoping to have those before this meeting, so I got really good. That's where we're at. I need readers big time. I got 11 open spots for readers. That's 1,100 bills that need to be read. So far behind we are. We were at 60% complete, but they added 400 bills, so now we're 54. So,
I owe you anyway.
yeah, so please email me that, because when you email me, then I can immediately give you access and immediately give you instructions on what I want you to do. And I'm going by row number, not house bill numbers. So when I send you an assignment, it'll be in row number. These read row numbers. Thanks.
Sally?
This may not be the right time for this question, but how are you guys doing on foot soldiers? Not necessarily for calling legislators, but on legislative days at the Capitol. I feel like that's something that, you know, for us, Williamson County, Travis County, Hayes County, the counties right around Austin, it'd be a lot easier for us to get back to our counties and try and get more people to come up and lobby and talk to our legislators.
Yeah,
How
I
are
mean,
y'all doing on foot soldiers?
I think as many as possible. I know we're working on a rapid response team, so we're gonna want to have rapid response teams during days. So when those green bill alerts, those red bill alerts come up, then, you know, especially the surrounding counties, that could be really helpful when we have like.
I'd love to see if I can get as many people from Williamson County to help, and I'm sure he'd like to get as many people from Travis County to help. I don't know who's.
On
the website.
Earlier today, so just share that.
Yeah.
Share that registration form.
That
Yeah.
registration form has the ability to say, I'm only interested in email campaigns, I'm only interested in call campaigns, or I'm only interested in in-person stuff, or all or some, whatever.
So in
So,
my county meetings this Tuesday, I'll make sure that gets
Please
brought
share
up and everybody that's there tries to sign up.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
I was writing and not listening, but I think this is kind of along the same line, or just add some maybe but what my question is, once we have these, this is our position on whatever, how does your average LP, Texan, who's registered with us get notice, say, hey, we want you to call your representative?
That volunteer sheet.
Right there.
Yep, yep,
Yeah, so,
volunteer for
so
legislature.
how do we send that out and say, hey, everybody, go do this?
So click on that link and share that.
Well, but that's not,
I
that's not
think-
prompting them.
I think that's what he's trying to say, other than the people that know about the link already, are we letting people know,
So,
our constituents know about this? Like, are we sending out an email blast or something to tell people to sign up and get involved?
I haven't seen anything like
It-
that.
it
I clicked
was-
those boxes. I might do.
It was in the newsletter,
You know,
it was
whatever.
in the news on the website,
But
Is it-
I don't
and
see
it
those.
was out.
Okay, but it's not-
Hang on a second. Are you saying that you filled out that specific registration form and put boxes? and
No.
Okay.
It was when I registered, what would you like to do? What are you interested in?
Like just on your general
General,
Texas
yeah.
account, okay.
But
Yeah,
I'm saying, are we firing that out, saying, hey, everybody, I need you to go to this, if you're interested in contacting. I think I've seen one of those somehow or another.
We
But
did,
if
it was in the
you're
newsletter for sure. We had not done this, it was in the newsletter that went out. What was that?
On the citizen.
So that goes out via email to all
Yes.
Healthy Texans.
Yes, to our entire list. So we.
Probably where I saw that.
Yeah, email blast, just specifically for this or look for here, we do not want to spam our list. So when we communicate by email, it needs to be strategic and, you know, sort of with a cadence that is comfortable for people. So we want to put this out there as much as possible. It is a link that can be shared on social media. You guys as SD reps, share it however on your accounts, whatever you want to do there. I don't think anything for people who have registered on that form already, there has not necessarily been like, nothing has gone out
So-
to those people yet.
So if you registered for that, Darren's been working through the list just to send you a welcome email, kind of talking about the game plan and that sort of thing. But we haven't sent out any of the red bill or green bill alerts yet. But
No action
we're,
items.
we're about to start.
Okay.
So,
Working on it.
we're
I
working on
have
it.
the first two right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Got a deadline?
Well, they just got posted Friday, so.
All right, no one else. I've got a couple things. You mentioned the RCB us kind of working in conjunction with them and not officially as part of the coalition. What days do we know yet? What days they're going to be doing their thing there so that we can also add those to our suggested dates?
Yeah, I believe we know what this,
RCB, if you don't know them now, that's fine. Just put that on your list of to-dos so that we know what days they're there and we can go join them.
Yeah, it will, actually, it would be whenever those are announced. So if anyone doesn't have a TLO, okay, that's it. If you do not have a Texas legislative, online account, get one now. And it allows you to get the bill alerts, because this is part of the secrets that they do to mess with us. They'll be, approximately 1 week, they'll make an announcement for what bills will be offered in a committee. They will make changes, even up until the night before, to bills that they'll pull a bill or add a bill at the last second. It's the chair's discretion. But that's when we will meet with the RCP representatives and we'll coordinate our lobbying so that we don't repeat stuff. We'll have a nice coordinated attack to or support for RCP bills or bills that will try to diminish the ability for staff. And by the way, in Texas, it's called preferential voting. They don't like to use the term bank choice voting. It's preferential. And when it comes to the Texas legislature, you have to use their words. If you don't use their words, they're dismissed.
You also mentioned the green bills as the ones that we would generally support. I know that there's probably a lot of things out there that we know we're gonna color code green, they're probably gonna pass a little bit out. Right? But one of the things that we need to keep in mind is that if we go out there and we are on record officially as having testified in support of something that's gonna pass anyway, that's good for us. So just because it's gonna pass on its own without us, doesn't mean we want to ignore it. So if there's someone who's interested in that thing or, a deaf that's speaking on whatever that particular issue is, that is still strongly encouraged. We don't just want to ignore that one because it's gonna pass anyway. We want our names associated with these things as they happen. Too many other both parties are getting credit for stuff that we're trying to do.
Right.
So, yeah, L2 stuff, I just wanna point this out, I know you already know it, I know I addressed this with Andy at Asheville, the first time I saw it, but that data is not perfect. I found errors in my own record from L2, I don't know where they got it from, but if mine was messed up, other people's are too. So even when we have L2 data, it's still not gonna be perfect. So when we're talking about targeting, for example, targeting mail outs or whatever, people who at some point, according to L2, were registered as a Democrat, like they had, which is not even possible. We need to be very careful. We need to be mindful of when we target using L2, some of those fields are not appropriate. So we didn't deal with that. Those of you who are actually working with that, can work that out. But if possible, if you ever get a chance to, you can look at the records of SLEC, for example, at some point and see if anybody on here discovers errors in their own. We'll get to that. Just wanted to point that out. The other thing is about calendars. I'm assuming this is still the way it works. I don't know, but I'm assuming up until very recently, when a bill gets to calendars, they're the one, that committee gets to decide whether or not it ever goes to the House or Senate. That's really when we have to be super active. And the way it works is even if you call or you email, they're supposed to literally red and green, like it's like tickets, red slip or green slip, I think they call them. If they get a call from someone, from a constituent that says, I oppose this bill and I want that on record, do not let this go to the floor, that's considered a red slip. And they literally used to take red pieces of paper and stack them up, like where those calls came in. And whichever stack was higher, that's the go, right? So they're doing that with emails and they're doing that with phone calls. And they're doing that when you go into the offices and make contact. But it needs to be directly to the calendar committee, not to your representative. Because by the time it's in calendars, it's not up to them. It's they may get a chance to vote on it at some point, but when it's in calendars, it's the calendar committee that you need to make the contact with. So I just want to put that out there, keep that on your horizon, so that when that time comes, we all know that we're kind of on the same page. So it is very important. A phone call is super easy to do to get a red flag or a reason. And if you don't want things to go, that's, to me, that's when calendars is most critical. That's why calendars is most critical, because if you don't want to go fast, you don't ever want to even see the red flag. We got to stop that. Anybody else?
How many constitutional laws? I noticed early in the day, y'all reading them all, so, it, like, those people who don't read them, people, yes, like,
You need,
That's a constitutional
you know how
amendment.
they,
oh, how many are gonna go to the public?
yeah, I mean, that's possibly like the public versus legislation.
SARs, how many SARs, HGRs, that was
I've seen a couple of them proposed so far, but I don't know how many. What's the average?
Yeah.
Any other questions? Thank you. Events is next. So 15 minutes for events. So, yeah, we're gonna schedule it. We did not.
Hi, so I'm gonna start off with, I know that this report is pretty quick, but it's a pretty quick report. First off, I wanna give a shout out to Matthew Gibbs, for joining, is he here? He has joined as the production coordinator, which has been great and helped out during other areas. He was calling out, thank you, before the department. He's been great. He's helping with all the recordings and stuff with the meetings. Still looking for talent coordinator, you know anybody interested, but no, events associates, whoever that was from. Our mix, we have this meeting here, as a cross space, which is $650. It's a lot bigger than the last one, also costs us more money, but it's nice. We give a shout out for tea and coffee sponsors. We have Jack Westbrook, Nathan Garza, Austin Hogan. And for LP Bear, Carter Manning. All of our meetings to have a coffee and tea every season for everybody in here, and we stay over to the yeah. There was a lot going on with it. For our next meeting, I'm looking at San Antonio location. Because we'll still be in legislative session, so trying to keep coordinated that we're going to here was because legislative session was happening. So for the same reason for San Antonio, you should be looking at, we are planning another fundraiser for that. That is a start, which brings me to Jenny, so happy to have her. So I'll be having some conversations with her to find out a good topic for the fundraiser, what's important. I've heard a lot about school choice today. That is something that I'm also very interested in. And I'm hoping maybe there's some donors who are also interested in it. We're thinking of maybe doing like a panel kind of thing and then a big gala the next night with some awards, some entertainment, and some guest speakers. For the fundraiser, so the Fight for Freedom fundraiser. We made 3% on that, which was not the 30% we wanted, but we were also doing without a development director, and so that made the fundraising side. That is not my area of expertise, but we did come out and not lose any money on it, and it was actually pretty well attended. Everybody had a really good time. The entertainment was great. The venue was actually really cool. Doing a fundraiser so far out, a little bit more difficult, so we're going to try to make sure we keep the fundraisers when we're near the triangle. so that we have more attendees, not just from select members, but from our constituents. Budget, the only thing I've spent so far for this is for these employee signs that I put out of the discretionary budget, which is like $35. For short term, I'm keeping the same as from the last meeting, choosing the next meeting location, still working on the silent auction thing with Judy Lehman now. I know that she has done some silent auction stuff before, so we'll be so happy to have her help with doing that. So interviewing. Oh, and then let me mention down here, so I coordinated some stuff with Ted Brown and Judith Ruder for this. They're very helpful, especially Judith. So I wanted to make sure that I mentioned that tomorrow she has to do the service project. There was a sign up sent out for it. I believe they're working on building a patio for a cat sanctuary here in Austin. And so Texas Gold and Elton Travis were working with that. She's wanting to bring attention to give some good PR for the Libertarian Party. And then I'm going to mention the happy hour tonight is at the Omni Hotel Bar, and the Texas Dental Coalition people will be there. They are having their happy hour, which is why I'm sorry that is our jump off spot. But theirs is actually from 4 to 6. And based on our meeting, I didn't know if we'd get there before 6. So that's where we started to up crawl so that we could go to other places. But with how fast this meeting is going, we might be able to catch some more people there. I might actually end up there a little bit earlier too. And then the happy hour last night went really well. Great attendance. Thanks for everybody who came. I'm sure y'all had fun. I think we drank them out of their bar.
Yeah.
So, they were prepared for us. They were us. And I think that's all I have. So I'll open it up for questions. Do you have any questions? No, they're great. Thank you.
Just remind, don't let me forget to talk to you about the school choice thing.
Okay, great, thank you. Oh, that's me. Okay, so we have two lawsuits sort of operating. One I reported on last time, the one we've been in for a few years now, with other co-plaintiffs, which are other political parties as well as some independents. That's the one that many of you will remember Mark Miller was on, and he in fact is like the lead plaintiff on it. So Miller versus because at the time there was not a Secretary of State, so it's John. Anyway, that one is, as I reported last time, that one is basically challenging the larger ballot access scheme here in Texas, which included not only the number of signatures that are required for things, they tacked on the filing fees, so there doesn't have to file once that happened. Of course, that particular lawsuit still is looking at the very first filing fee statute, not the one we're actively fighting now. And it also challenged the fact that petitions have to be paper, that's market and unnecessary and presents an impediment, among other things. And so what the court granted relief only on the paper petition. They did not grant relief on anything. The last thing I reported was that the court ordered both sides, being the state and then all of us co-plaintiffs, come together and present some joint proposals. That is what our counsel thought was going to happen. That's not what happened. The state found a defendant on us submitting their own proposed orders, and we were going to submit our own as well. I saw a draft of that. I do not know if that's actually been filed. I do not know if anything has come of that, because I haven't gotten responses from our counsel on that particular one. So I don't have anything specific to report on there. Other than that, it kind of feels like it's over. We got that one bit of relief, which is great, but we still don't know what the new law is going to be. So as soon as I have that information, I can pass it on. With regard to the other one that we're in, a couple things
We do still have our hearing scheduled or trial for, scheduled, I think, the first week of September. The court did want to allow plenty of time for us to do proper discovery, depositions, whatever we were going to do, and also allow time for the legislature to figure out more ways to screw us, and then so we can adapt our meetings to that. So for now, we've got a court date, set for September. Just this week, like within the last 7 days, we filed our first set of interrogatories, which is basically a set of questions that we are asking the state to answer all of them. And most of those, thanks to Renee, I know Renee had already tried to gather a lot of this documentation from the Secretary of State with regard to the cost of the Republican and Democrat primaries, how much money is actually expended for those, and how much money are they getting back. So Renee had tried to get that information from the Secretary of State. They provided it to us just in like a very basic 10-line spreadsheet in Excel with no what's it called? Yeah, no insignia, nothing at all. The state seal, there you go, like nothing to indicate that it's an official document. But in the meantime, our lawyers are asking, like we've actually filed a court order asking for that information. So that was just done this week, and we're just continuing to gather information. I've also been asked to provide, which I got from Kate, our expenses, like our convention expenses, what it costs us each time to nominate our candidates. So I've also submitted that. So anyway, there is continuing activity on it. I will also tell you that there were 4 people on our legal team that have been helping us do this. 3 of those 4 people, also within the last week, have formed a new law firm. So the lead counsel on there is still with us, that's Jared LeBlanc. He and one of the partners that we had not already met before have gone independent, and they're now running their own firm. They took 2 of the people who were also on that team with us, with them. So it's still a great team, and I will have to sign a new engagement letter with the new firm name and all of that on it. But nothing is changing. In fact, we should get even better service at this point because it can be essentially more focused. So anyway, nothing is changing. They promised me that we're still in good hands. Nothing is changing at all with regard to this case. We're still moving forward. Obviously, we just filed something this week. So that is ongoing. Beyond that, I don't have anything specific for you, but I will report anything that happens. I can't. Everything I've said so far is public anyway. You can track the case if you've got that access. I know Joe, you could. Any questions?
Yes. My memory may not serve me well, but I thought that when we met back before, I want to say July or August, I thought the idea was to try to get the court to schedule our court date in the spring so that we could litigate this at trial before they had a chance to change the law, making our case a moot point because the law was no longer constituted like it was when we filed suit.
That was our intention. The court did not agree with that. The court set the date.
So basically the court punted it downwind to give the Republicans time to change the law.
Ding, 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 ding.
I'm not saying that was the court's intention.
Yes.
I honestly, I like that, and I don't want to leave you.
That's how it should be interpreted. Yes.
I personally don't feel that was the case because the judge made it very clear in his ruling on, against us and our injunction that he recognizes their truths. So,
Right. Right, and in the meantime, of course, Mace Middleton has now filed, maybe you can take his friend in other ways. It's an example of like what Frank was pointing out earlier. This one representative might be doing something really cool here, but over here there's not. Mace Middleton. He filed the amendment to the existing statute, which basically would put the Secretary of State in a position to determine eligibility if someone doesn't pay their tax. Yeah, if someone doesn't pay their filing fee,
extortion.
then the Secretary of State would now be required to remove them. So whoever prepares the ballot is the proposed amendment is whoever prepares the ballot, which would be the Secretary of State in that case, or some of the counties
And that amendment would go through the elections committee,
As far as I know, yes. I don't know why it wouldn't.
of which Dustin Burrows is not.
That is correct, yes.
The same man put out the tweet that said he felt like it was a dereliction of duty that they weren't able to
Right.
remove libertarians from the ballot.
Right. That's correct. And also, one of the other people on that committee is someone who sued somebody in here, tried to sue somebody in here on the ballot this last time. So. Yeah, so it's a fun committee. But anyway, that's what's happening. Obviously, our attorneys are aware of that particular thing too. And the reality is that resolves part of this, which, part of what we've been able to fight the last few terms is they're trying to make it my problem as chair, my responsibility to determine this eligibility and my responsibility to alter the ballot, and it is not. And I won't stand for that, in which we've been able to get away from that so far. They finally realize that they can't do that, so they're gonna do this other thing and make it the Secretary of State's responsibility. But whether or not, or how we incorporate that into our challenge, we don't know, but, even if I did, that wouldn't be right now.
But effectively, this is gonna short circuit the Kathy Glass attempt that she made in Houston, because if I'm reading this right, what it's effectively gonna do is, they're not gonna have to go to a court of any kind to get a request to force the Secretary of State to do this. They're gonna be impaneled it's gonna be codified into law. So the moment the Secretary of State recognizes that we haven't paid the fee, they just rule us in the world.
So, which is interesting, because that also is not allowed, because now it's becoming an eligibility issue. We're back to it being an eligibility issue and not form, process, procedure, or whatever. And when it's an eligibility issue, there is supposed to be a public hearing for someone who is being told by the Secretary of State that they're going to be removed from the ballot. There is supposed to be a public hearing. And there was an independent candidate for governor who was removed from the ballot for this reason. She didn't do petition signatures, and she's the one who brought that to our attention. I was able to send that information to our attorneys, and they used it very well. But that's an issue too. I mean, and we know that they violate that already. We know that the Secretary of State already violates that rule, which is they have to hold a hearing, and it's supposed to be public before they can just wipe somebody out if it's an eligibility issue.
Sure.
So this does bring up a whole other, again, the Republicans think they're fixing it. They're not. There's still issues, but there are so many issues. We have to be very careful with which ones we go after, because what we don't want to do is expose ourselves to put a whole bunch of things out there and just do scattershot and then get a whole bunch, lose on a whole bunch of things. We want to focus on the ones that we can win, and
That's why we have competent representation.
Right.
I would take issue with this, with trying to fix it. Valerie Johnson specifically said on the record that they're not trying to fix it, they're trying to F us.
Yes. I use the representation. Time has expired on this item. I saw, Kelly.
I just was curious if y'all have ever angled it in a manner of just trying to get those funding money back.
Yes.
Yes.
That was attempted in a House bill at the same time this other bill was going through last session. And because we were arguing against on the House side, the Senate bill had that language in it. And we weren't automatically off the cuff opposed to that. Some of us weren't, some of us were, but we hadn't really discussed that. But what they did at the very last second, because we were on a different area of the Capitol, they substituted the full language of the House bill with the Senate bill and passed it without objection. So when it goes to the floor, it gets announced if there was any public speaking against it or whatever. Kind of so the cowards can know how much opposition, can I go ahead and vote for this thing? Was there really any public this off? So it gave the floor of the Capitol the perception that nobody opposed it. Because we were over here opposing a bill that they let die. They did an end run around us. And that's how they passed the law that exists today.
So I see, hold on, time has expired, and I want to honor our agenda. We have 2 people, hands up, 3 people, 4 people to extend time. Okay, I'm not opposed to this. However, I want us to be very careful. We are now talking about legal issues and in a public situation. So, where's your motion?
Motion is 10 minutes.
10 minutes. The objection?
Object.
Okay, there's objection. Right, we're trying to wait.
It's not very long.
Okay, so, motion to extend time requires 2/3. So all in favor of extending time for 10 minutes to continue with the business. All opposed? Motion carries. Okay. You can follow up, with questions on the forum, and then any responses that can be made public.
Mine's not a legal question.
All right,
The question is,
Mr. Moore.
Is there anything preventing the state party from specifically targeting a local state rep or state senate race of somebody who's close to the fair presentation for this party? I know it's never been done before, but could the state actually gear up, prepare for battle, and go after a person's seat? If again, they continue to be a constant thorn in the party.
I don't see why not. Everybody nominate a candidate. Yeah. All right, we are moving on to the LNC report.
All right, guys, good afternoon. I represent either the loved or the hated great land of the LNC. For this quarter, just to give everybody a reminder, because I know that people tend to forget what the composition of Region 7, so the region that I serve as alternate for, is that it's Texas, which is always first, always biggest state, always show up first in my report. Arkansas, Louisiana, Missouri, and Oklahoma. So those are all the states that comprise Region 7. Linnea Gabbard is the primary representative. I act as the alternate. The things that happen in the LNC for people that don't like to follow the LNC, the biggest one was obviously the Rage Against the War rally that we held in DC last week. The rally, without getting into particulars about whether or not you like or dislike the rally or whatnot, some important notes is that it was a really good collaboration between multiple different distinct groups, both on the right and the left. As far as what we know so far is that it got what you would consider to be standard coverage from politicos. So, for example, it was picked up by Tucker Carlson, and it was picked out by Rachel Maddow. So, one thing that has so far come out that was actually totally surprised me was that MSNBC reports, which you would consider more of the hard news arm of MSNBC, actually did semi-live coverage. They had staff on the ground at the rally and conducted interviews with people attending the rally, and they gave the rally an incredibly fair shake. This is something that I would have never expected in 1,000 years for MSNBC of all the outlets around to actually go and post that. First of all, they mentioned us by name, mentioned Libertarian Party by name. They also mentioned that, that this was a general anti-war rally. Didn't mention the belligerents in the conflict really as much, and mostly talked to people that were there that were protesting against war generally. So it didn't go into the particulars. Nobody was nitpicking anything, but it was just people that were general people that were there that opposed wars and did things like didn't want World War III and nukes to get brought out and so forth. So it was an incredibly fair shake from MSNBC reports. So we'll have to see whether or not the downstream impact of this, results in, more members, money or whatnot, so what the actual financial or, press results of the rally are. But at least that looks like that it wasn't something that was just utterly condemned by mainstream media, like most people would generally thought that a rally that's organized by, the People's Party and the LP to do. We are going to be participating national in the Independent Council. I think you heard that it was mentioned earlier, but LP National is going to be participating. I'm not sure whether or not that's going to involve a booth. I know that they're looking at discounted tickets, but we are intending on being a presence at that conference that is happening here in Austin, April 3rd through the 5th. So, encourage you guys to look up at what the National Council is doing. Overall financial health, much like what you've seen in LP Texas in the Treasurer's Report, if you look through that, we are in the off year after a midterm right before president. And our membership numbers reflect that. They're not significantly down, they're not significantly up along the trend line if you were to look at national state 4 years ago, right? So if you're to take a look at 2019, you're going to see a very similar trend result, nothing above or below, or at least materially or above or below trend line. And we continue to have a favorable cash balance, mostly because we're doing, pinching every penny that we can on the expense side. So everything is still looking fairly healthy from a financial standpoint, given the broader climate that we usually operate under in these particular offices. Staff has had a tremendous rollover. So, I reported on this last quarter, that it continued. We are now down, we now have one staff member that was prior to convention last year. So, and that's our operations director. So since then, we've Andy Burns has left. We just cycle on over. Reed Cooley, who was brought on communications director right at the tail after about Q3 of 2022 that we brought on. He has also resigned. So we will be looking. EPCC is looking for a new communications director. So anything that any name dropping that anybody wants to do for who they think would want the insufferable job of being LP National's communications director, let me know, and I will send them a bottle of bourbon just for being just for having somebody name drop them in pity.
What's the salary?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, yes, carry it out. Yes, I do. It either needs to be. So we do have somewhat of a new organizational chart to operate under. Luke Troxel from Texas has taken up one of the new organizational chart positions as development director, which is solely focused on national membership and fundraising. So congratulations, Luke. Love to see it. Vacancies, LC board vacancies. Josh Smith did recently resign past month as vice chair of the LNC. We are looking for. We have had nominations open for replacements. So if anybody feels that there are nominees, there are about 4 nominees that have been put through so far. By far, the most nominated, the one that's received most public support, is Andrew Watkins, who's the region rep for Region 5. And so he's gotten the most, but if anybody else has a candidate for vice chair that they'd like to put forward, let myself or Renee or Lydia both know, and then we'll get that up on the nomination list. And we will be voting on that in the upcoming meeting in Albuquerque. So that's on their regional trainings. We were given a drop that we are looking at partnering with the Leadership Institute to conduct regional trainings again. The first glance or back of the napkin projection is that it will be $4,000 a training, and that it's expected that the LNC will cover, or the LP National will cover half of that, so 2,000, and then the region will be expected to cover the other 2,000, as well as any costs for the venue in which the training is held. So that is the idea right now. I've actually been speaking with Leah, recently. We're gonna make sure that regional trainings are on the agenda for the Albuquerque meeting to make sure that we get this hammered out in totality so that I can have a complete message with respect to regional trainings coming out of, the meeting next month. State affiliate issues, if you guys care about other state drama, come, I'll be happy to give you all the details about it. I've listed it in my report, just as a summary. I'm not really gonna go much into this, here, other than to say, in certain states, there's drama. And it requires us to, at some points, the LNC has had to step in to try to weigh in on different matters that's caused various legal issues that we have to go on and assist state affiliates with, or groups, in order to be able to essentially keep the good name of the Libertarian Party going. I mean, ultimately, the LP National's job is to make sure that there's a consistent with affiliates, is to make sure there is a state affiliate and that on only that affiliate uses our brand and logo information. How that's determined and everything else, gets into a whole bunch of mudslinging. But ultimately, that's the goal that the LNC is looking for. The upcoming meetings said, so our next quarterly meeting for the LNC is slated for the weekend of March 11th and 12th. And that will be occurring in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So that's what we'll do. As I said, the focus of that meeting is going to be getting into 2023, political and ballot access. I'm sure we're going to be talking a metric ton about ballot access because it's drive time in any state that does not currently have it. And then we'll also be making sure that we talk about the regional trainings. I'm sure there's going to be some civic discussions that are coming up. There's actually a lot of off-press stuff, the discussions that are occurring with respect to the city, that will be the subject of quite a bit of discussion coming to March week. With that, I'll take questions.
Well, time is expired, so.
Oh, there we go. Awesome.
Heard enough about that.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys.
Okay, so that brings us to the last major portion of our work today, which is new business notice. And we've got about an hour and 10 minutes to try to get in order to stay on track, but I'm set to take a break. So, 10 minutes? The objection? All right, so be back at 2:15.